Welcome back, Perfect Peeps, to Purrfect.dev. Today on the show, we have Wes Bos.
Hey.
What's up, Wes?
Oh, not too much. Excited to be on. Should be fun.
For those of you who don't know, which would blow my mind, Wes is a web developer, teacher, and speaker from Hamilton, Ontario. He creates online courses for web developers like beginner JavaScript, full stack, advanced React and GraphQL, and Learn Node. Wes is also co-host of Syntax FM with Scott Talinsky, a Tasty Treats podcast for web developers. I got something fun for you. You ready for this?
Yes.
Wes Barracuda Boss.
I thought I'd just throw that one in there. I thought it was super fun.
Yeah, that's one of our intros. We've been meaning to get some new ones for a while now, but I really like the Barracuda Boss.
I just listened to the last episode from the Scott's old house, and you guys were like, yeah, we keep saying that we're going to get new intros, and then we probably won't. So.
Yeah. It's only so much time in the day.
Yeah.
I still love the Barracuda. I think it's my favorite. All right, Wes. So to get started, we're kind of curious, how did you get started in web development? I know you've talked about it on the show, but I just want to kind of circle back and go through it.
Yeah. Oh, it goes way back. Growing up, I was always super into computers. My dad worked in IT. That meant we had a computer in the house pretty early. I'm 32 or 33, something like that. So when I was a kid, not everybody had a computer, and then not everybody had internet, and so I was kind of exposed to that at an early age. And then I remember being in grade 5 or so, and being like how do you I would go to websites, but I would how do you actually get stuff on there? Where do you go? Where is the internet? So from that, I sort of learned about making little websites. I made some websites on PlayStation 2 when that came out. I made a pretty big website about it, which is funny because I spent so much time working on this website about PlayStation 2. And it was really fun learning all of that stuff. And then I literally got the PlayStation 2 and I wasn't all that interested. I've never been really a gamer. So that was a bit of a dud to actually buy it, but it was fun to make the website. So from there, making personal websites, things like that. As I got into high school, I got really involved in the hardcore music scene. And it's kind of the whole punk mentality is do it yourself. So we were very early on in MySpace days. So I was building MySpaces. I was doing a lot of design for CD art and stuff like that. T-shirts. I did tons of T-shirts. But as it became more online, I was doing more and more MySpaces. As MySpace started to fizzle out, I did more websites. And then as I was sort of getting into university, or maybe even a couple of years before university, what happened is that the punks grew up and got jobs, or the punks had suburban parents who needed websites for their businesses.
This is before Bandcamp, you actually had to do something else.
Yeah, exactly. So they would just be like, hey, can you build a website for my parents? And so I'd build a website for a hardcore band and a pool company. And that sort of just it gave me momentum over the next, 4 or 5 years. All through university, I started doing more and more freelance work. Started getting pretty good at WordPress, pretty good at JavaScript, pretty good at CSS. And by the time I should say, I didn't go to school for web development. I went to school for what's called business technology management. It's IT degree.
Sure.
It's a business degree focused on IT. So working in a bank, or a lot of people go work at consultancies and things like that, on how do you fix our processes and swim lane diagrams and flow diagrams and all that. So by the time I was done school, I had done all these co-ops. I had worked at Exxon Mobil. I had worked for a small little video agency. And all through those co-ops, I was just kind of sitting there being I don't love this. Actually, I don't like it at all. And also, I'm making more money at night building freelance websites than I'm making for working these co-ops, which they're pretty good paying. This was 10 years ago, and I was making like $24 an hour, which is
Jeez.
like still today,
That's
that's
awesome.
good money. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go whole hog, just work for myself right out of school. So I graduated school. I my last co-op, I had to do co-op to graduate. So I co-op for myself. I convinced them to let me co-op for myself, which was super cool of them. The government, I did some like thing called summer company here, and the government gives you like $3,000 to start a company.
Wow.
So like, and then they give you all these like training like you once a week you had to go in for a couple hours, and it was like me like building this freelance business, and then it's like kids washing cars and walking dogs, stuff like that. And it was funny because I was like, how do taxes work? And they weren't saying anything about that. They're like, you have to send invoices and things like that. So I'm a little bit scattered there. So I did the summer company. I did the co-op. I at the end of school, I proposed to my wife, and I just kind of just like, let's just do it. Let's go for it. And I was really happy that I did that because at that point I was like pretty good at what I did. And if you're good at what you do and you're like, you can get on the phone call and go in for meetings, like there's lots of work out there for you as a web developer. So yeah, that was the next kind of 4 or 5 years of my life, was just doing freelance work, working with startups in Toronto, things like that, doing a lot of web development. And sort of along the same lines, I started doing a lot of blogging. That turned to doing teaching in person. And then eventually that turned into me saying like, I just want to do YouTube and make my own courses from there. So it's a bit of a jog through my past, but that's the high level of it.
I'm kind of curious. Yeah, go ahead, Brittney.
Oh, it sounds like your goal was never to go out on your own. It was just like you fell into it, but that was what life gave you. And you,
I always wanted, like, I've always been entrepreneurial as a kid. I would pick pears and sell them by the side of the road. And I remember being like little Scrooge McDuck when I was a kid, and I would just count my money. And then I remember writing down on pieces of paper, like how much to get to $100. Like that was my goal. And I would count my money every single day. And I just remember I had like a paper route, and they paid you like, I think by the hour, and I worked like 3 hours a week. And then I moved to like doing mowing lawns. And I remember I got $20 to mow a lawn, and I did it in like 45 minutes. And I was like, that's it. That's where it is. It's not the like trading ass and seat time. It's how do you figure out how to just provide value? $20 to mow a lawn was a good value for the guy. And it only took me 45 minutes. And I just used my parents' lawnmower and gas. So that was free. Like it was like, it really like was clear to me that, you can be a lot more free and flexible with your time and do stuff that you enjoy if you just like work a little bit hard and try to go out on your own. So I think like since I was a kid, I always knew I'd be trying to do my own thing. And it became super clear once I actually got jobs working in banks and gas companies, being like, this is what everybody in my school wanted. And I hate this.
I will say, you kind of like, it hit my ear just right when you were talking about like your other hobbies. Wes is a great follow on Instagram as well, because he's always going to like, I think it's the dump and picking up all this random stuff and just building random things out of it, right?
You're like MacGyver.
Yeah, MacGyver.
Yeah, I go at our cottage. We have a dump. You can, I shouldn't be saying this, but you can sneak into it after hours and pull the good stuff out. And like, I find boat motors and pressure washers and like stuff that's like so simple that to fix. So I fix it and flip it, or fix it and give it to the kids, and they enjoy like using that kind of stuff. So like I that's just like my personality, is I just love tinkering with that kind of stuff and getting into it.
That's
my
awesome.
favorite is the like 4-wheelers that you like soup up with super fast like speeds for your children.
Yeah, we've got 4 of these like 12-volt cars that the kids rip on. And like I found half of them in the garbage. The other half were like broken. And I fixed them all up. And then like we have special batteries that make them go fast as hell. But the kids aren't allowed to use those unless they're wearing a helmet and I'm around, because they're too fast for them.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You don't burn those things out.
Yeah.
So
I have burned a couple out.
we're kind of talking about like Wes's history and how he got going, and we've been doing a lot of talks, Twitter Spaces and things like that. How to just start and get going, and Wes hit on it. Like he started kind of doing these odd jobs and things like that, and got going. And we're talking all about making tasty courses for web developers to hit on the tasty hasty of syntax. And basically, how did you like start to formulate the fact you wanted to create courses, and how did you first present that, since there probably wasn't a Teachable or something like that back then? How did you go about just creating that?
Yeah. At the time, what had happened is I was writing a bunch of blog posts on Sublime Text, and I had been contacted. What happens, I didn't realize this at the time, but what happens as a web developer is if you write a blog post on anything, then book companies will come and ask you write a book on that topic. So I was like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. Like jumped on a call, absolutely. Told my family I'm going to write a book. And then I was like, okay, so like how much do you get paid to write a book? And they're like, well, almost nothing. Like I think I remember it being like, they take 90% of it. Like you sell a book in the store, 90% of that goes to, I think like the publisher and the people who send it and the truck, and it makes sense. But like you'd have to sell a lot of books to make it worth your time. And I since realized that people who write books don't do it for the money. They do it for notoriety and to get consulting gigs and things like that. And that's a good use case for writing a book. It helps you get a job. You could get a job pretty easily if you have written a book on a specific topic. But I just kind of like was like, I bet I could just like sell this myself. I've been making these YouTube videos, writing blog posts. I bet I could sell something myself. So I wrote the book myself. I recorded a couple of videos with it. And then, yeah, at the time there was Gumroad at the time. Nathan Barry, who runs ConvertKit now, he was sort of like popular in the space he wrote a couple books on design and made like $100,000 or $200,000 on or something silly like that. And that kind of, I looked at that and go like, man, that's incredible that this guy can just make his own content and sell it himself. And then he sort of owns this audience. So I said, I'll try that myself, and it worked.
So back in the day, I mean, there was no Stripe. There was maybe PayPal.
Yeah, there was Stripe from day one. I had Stripe and PayPal. No, I didn't have PayPal integrated. I integrated that maybe 6 months later because everybody was asking for it. But I had to build the whole thing myself, which this is only, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, probably 7 years ago. The code base is I still running that code that I wrote 7 years ago. It's obviously been updated, incredible. But there's probably lines of code that haven't been touched since then. But yeah, I just kind of built the thing myself, and I was happy that I did that because I don't know. I'm sure if you want to talk about running your own platform versus building it yourself.
Absolutely. I think let's step into like your creative thoughts around creating the course, and then we'll dive into kind of that next phase of it. So you get an idea, or you start looking at kind of needs out there. Is that how you base your next course? Is it more like what you're interested in or what the market's calling for?
Yeah, both. And you kind of have to find the intersection of those two things. So initially, everyone asked me, like, people send me DMs all the time. Wes, I'm thinking about making a course on XYZ. Will people buy it? Or they post a Twitter thread. I'm going to build this. Will you buy it? And everybody's absolutely, yeah, rah, rah, rah. Like, of course, people are going to do that. But you can't, like, you need people to vote with their credit card at the end of the day, right? So at the time, it was just like, I had been writing about lots of things, but the Sublime Text posts blew up. Every time I posted one, people were like, yes, this is what I like. These are super helpful. And I said, okay, there's something there, right? But now that I have a big following, a large email list, I talk to people, we have questions come in on the podcast, dozens per day or something like that. So we're able to just get a really good feel for what people need at that time.
Sure.
So like if someone was brand new to this, I would tell them like, just post YouTube videos, put 30 YouTube videos on random topics up, and see which ones strike, right? You're going to, some of them are going to start to trend out. You're not going to like, oh my gosh, that one got 1 million views in a day. But you'll start to like, you can look at your videos over 6 months or your blog posts over 6 months and see what are people searching for and commenting on and things like that. But now I just kind of have a feeling for what people need to learn just based on questions that I get from people. And also just as a crossover with stuff that I'm really excited about, because I certainly could make a Java course or something like that, but it's just not, I'm not excited about it, and it's not going to be a very good course.
I don't know if anybody else would be either, so that's great. No, just kidding. So I kind of want to show off, it's one of my perfect picks, so I'll burn mine, but I want to show off kind of how your courses are laid out. So this is one of my favorites, and I bought this for my son so that he can start like learning JavaScript and stuff like that. But as you dive in, like this is kind of your main sales page, if you will. But the key that I want to talk about here, like this is the outline that you have that you're presenting to people. Can you talk through like how you made this outline and what kind of timeline it takes to create something like this?
Yeah. So the way that I approach teaching something like this is there's kind of like two different types of courses that I have. I've got courses like JavaScript, TypeScript, where it's like a fundamental thing, and I'm going to teach you every single piece of JavaScript in that course. Whereas something like React is, I obviously want to teach you every part of React, but in that case, we build an entire course. With the JavaScript one, there's so many different topics that you can't build something that includes absolutely every one. So we kind of go off, do lots of little exercises in that. So in both use cases, what I do is I have this mind mapping software called MindNode. And I just do probably over 6 months or so, just as I'm thinking about a course or as I'm learning something or as I stumble upon a new topic, I'll throw that into my mind mapping software. And then after 6 months or so, you just have this like huge dump of, this is literally everything I need to teach people, because this is everything that I use from day to day, right? And then you have to take that and to distill it into sort of either into like, what can we build that includes all of these things in React or whatever, or how do I break this down into a linear fashion that we learn one thing? And that's probably the toughest part, because like learning to code is not linear, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, I'm here, I'm there. You're all over the place. You're picking up little tidbits, and then trying to give that to somebody to just say, sit down and do this from one to another is a little bit tricky. It's definitely doable. I've done it in my courses, but it can be a little bit tricky. So yeah,
it seems like it's incredibly challenging, because we talk about like failing a lot, like you need to fail this thing to learn it almost. And like you walk through these examples, and as you hit one, like it might click, but then like 3 or 4 later, that's when it finally clicks, because you've screwed it up before. So it's always this repetitive nature of learning, right? Like you try it, maybe you fail at it, you go back to it, and it's just cool how you lay it out. I'm just blown away. So even in that beginner JavaScript, you have 85 different lessons in there. How long does something like that take you to create?
Oh man, it's all over the place. That specific beginner JavaScript, like it's not full time, but I probably worked on that thing for about 1.5 years, 2 years from initial idea. But that's obviously not full time. I have other courses that I'm putting out and working on. I'm doing the podcast support, things like that. Yeah. So it's more like just like always thinking about it. Like TypeScript course. I've had notes on a TypeScript course for over 1 year now, and I'm just putting it into. I have notes and I have lots of examples, and now I'm trying to mold that into what a linear course will actually look like. And we do little examples, and then we go off and build something that's actually real life. And then we do learn some more stuff. And you got to make sure that you don't use too much of the future stuff, but it's okay to use a little bit of future stuff and say, hey, we haven't learned this yet, but it will make sense once we hit it, and we'll come back to it. Sorry, go ahead.
That makes your courses a little bit more successful too, is because you don't like just start with this outline of, hey, I want to teach this. You see actual problems, actual like issues that people have, and you put those down and you think about them for a while before you like actually like put it into a tutorial or a course. And I think that just helps your courses sell more, but like makes more successful developers as well.
Yeah, at least the type of person that enjoys the way that I teach, they get a lot out of it, because it is literally just stuff that I've stumbled across in the last year of doing my own development. And like sometimes there's specific parts of, I try to include like most of the language, but there's some parts of JavaScript that like I've never used in my entire life. And there's not a whole lot of sense in just making someone sit through half an hour worth of that, where like I will often say, I use this literally every single day. Map, reduce, filter, that kind of stuff. This is really important. You're going to hit this a lot in the type of modern JavaScript that we're working on, something like that.
I think someone put up like array chaining, optional array chaining the other day. I'm like, I would totally use this, but I'll never remember it. So it's things like that seem like, as long as you can hit the key ones, those are the ones to remember. Those are the ones to teach, because it's the 80-20 or 90-10 rule.
This will kind of burn one of my Purrfect Picks too, but the JS30 course, I did that when I was first started learning. And I feel like it was like, I did free code camp and some like little tutorials that walked you through JavaScript, but I didn't see how JavaScript was used until I got in that course. And then you build those things, and it was just so helpful to see like how you could actually put it into use.
Yeah, that was like a really, like I had been teaching in person, and that JavaScript30.com course, we got a lot of people being like, do you have more examples? Like, I'm sick of counting bottles of beer on the wall and looping from 1 to 10. Like, what happens when someone needs to click a bottle of beer on the wall, you know? So like that was kind of eye-opening for me. People being like, yeah, I want more practice, but like, or the question, like I remember doing a talk once, and some guy just yells out in the middle of the talk, when would you ever use that? And I was like, okay.
Fair.
I called him out. But also, like, yeah, you kind of need to show people, like, my courses are kind of a bit of both. Like, you need to know the nuts and bolts of how this thing works, but you also need to know, like, when do you use that? In what use case is that even handy? Otherwise, I'm just learning that, being like, not sure what this is actually for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think ultimately why most people are taking these courses is either to get a job or like to get better at their job and grow in their career, right? So do you see a lot of feedback either on your community channel or like through email or whatever response is coming back? Like, oh my gosh, you helped me get my first job, Wes, things like that. Is that like so enriching for you?
Yeah, it's crazy that often, maybe, I don't know, once every 2 weeks, you'll get an email from somebody. I just got my first job. Thank you so much. The podcast really helped me. The course really helped me, or I got a raise. Like, and like, I part of me is like, well, it wasn't really me, you know, like I helped along the way, but like, you're the one that literally put in the time and worked on this. So thank you, but it's not totally me. But like the other part of it is like, wow, like, the stuff I make actually helps people buy a bigger house or be able to get their kids clothes and pay for car repairs and things like that, which is really cool to see that. I never thought that just goofing around on the internet would cause something like that.
It's such a wonderful, like, symbiotic relationship, though. Like, you are able to make a living and do what you love putting these out, but then these other people are getting such a benefit from you teaching because you're such a great teacher. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's the better thing is like thank you guys for supporting me, because I get this sweet job where I get to make stuff and talk about JavaScript for a couple hours a week and get paid for it. That's pretty sweet.
It is sweet. It's awesome. So, okay, breaking down. So your courses often have videos as well. So I think I've heard you say before, when you're kind of walking through and creating these, you like to create your videos and like edit them right away. Is that still the case, or are you using someone else to edit these days?
Yeah, no, I edit them right away, because if I'm like watching it back, I can like quickly see if there's an issue with with what happened, or the explanation could be redone. And at that point, I'm already set up. I already got the code where it needs to be, and it's pretty easy for me to fix that. So I've tried it as well, where I'll record the entire thing and go back and edit it. And also, like, it's tricky. Editing is pretty monotonous. So I prefer just to record one or two, edit them, and then go on to the next piece. And it also puts me in the headspace as to, like, what did I just say? You know, like, especially if you do something 2 or 3 takes and you forget to say it on the better take. So that's my approach right now. A lot of people are like, you need to get an editor to actually edit the thing. I don't know. It's just,
I think you're doing okay.
Yeah.
I think you'll be all right.
I feel like my stuff
use
needs to be edited by me, but
yeah. Do you use a script for your videos, or how much do you do in preparation before? Sorry.
Yeah. I have, so once I have that, like, mind map of all the topics, generally what I'll do is I'll try to get an idea for, not necessarily the videos, but what are the major things I need to hit on? And then inside of each of those major videos, what do I need to make sure that I'm saying in each of them? The gotchas, the common use cases, things like that. And then usually that will relate to one video. And then sometimes that'll be like, oh, this is too much. I need to break this up into 2 or 3 videos. So there's no script. It's just a topic and bullet points of important things I need to hit, and then kind of just give her and hit record.
That's fantastic. I think we've kind of run through a lot of our questions. Is there anything else you want to add before we jump? Oh my gosh, there's a creature moving behind you. I love it. Who's your friend?
Wrong way.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's my dog, Snickers.
I didn't even notice till, like, a tail wagged.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice he was in here. He's all freaked out. We had a big thunderstorm last night, so he's coming down off of that.
I miss my pup. All I have is cats now, as you can tell.
You must be getting the one we had yesterday.
Yeah, that was bad.
Oh yeah.
So as I was saying, sorry, we kind of went through, like, your process of how you got started, how you're making courses now, how you're coming up with courses. Is there anything else in addition you want to share with people before we jump into our Purrfect Picks?
I think, like, the only thing that I want to note is, like, if you're trying to build something, try to build it in public and get feedback from people and show them what you're doing. Because I hear all the time from people, they want to make something, they want to make a course, and which is awesome, because like, more people should be sharing what they know. But they always get frustrated at the, like, how do I get it in front of people? Like, it's nice for you, Wes. You have all these Twitter followers and email list and big podcasts and things like that. It must be easy for you. And, like, yeah, it is easy. Thank you. But like I'm not trying to be the guy, like, you got to work hard for it, because definitely was really lucky along the way with a lot of cases. But you need to make sure that you're also building an audience and doing the marketing side of that, because you can be the best explainer in the world, but you also have to do the marketing thing as well. Like, you see it, like, there's a lot of, I'm not like a huge code YouTuber, but there's a lot of huge code YouTubers, and you see them doing the silly thumbnails and like this array method you've never heard of. And, like, I understand why they're doing that, because they're playing the game. You kind of have to do that in order to make it work. So that's my only advice there, is make sure that you are also building a public and letting people know what it is that you're doing.
I feel like learning in public has been huge. It's been instrumental for me. Like, I put, like, blog posts out. I don't even have a huge following, but I was able to get a job because I put, like, blog posts out there. I put videos on Svelte out there. So I got recognized for that and was able to find a job in exactly, like, the niche that I wanted to be in.
I love hearing that, because a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't want to be a, like, popular web developer. That's even weird that's a thing, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, you don't have, as long as you're just sharing what you know, it will definitely show that you know what you're talking about or are very interested in it, and you got a job doing it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to switch to, like, Guy Raz on how I built this question. Like, how much of this would you give to talent, and how much would you give to luck? I feel like you just walked through that whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I definitely think that was early. I wasn't the first person. People were doing online courses forever. Like I was, if you search like jQuery for designers, that was Remy Sharp's course that I did like 5 years before I even made a course. So people have been making courses forever, but I definitely had some good timing in that type of thing. Also, like in terms of like my own life situation, I was able to, I was able to go freelance while I was still in school. So that's a lot easier than a lot of people who are having a full-time job. And then I was able to start doing videos and teaching and make courses while I was doing client work. So that's a lot easier than somebody who just wants to quit. So I've always like sort of just narrowed the gap as I made these jumps. And then also like I had, our house was really cheap when we bought it, and houses are really expensive now. Like there's all these little things where like, wow, that would be a lot harder to do today. Not impossible, but I definitely got a lot of lucky breaks along the way.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. We're going to jump into our Purrfect Picks. And while we do that, this is the second time we've done a live show this way. So it's kind of interesting and fun. I'm going to throw up the banner, and feel free to ask your questions live on the video with us. But as we're going through the Purrfect Picks, I'll leave that up there for everyone. So I will go first because I think Wes is still working on his. Maybe you have them.
Oh, I've got mine. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. I'll throw up as we already talked about JavaScript, beginner JavaScript. So that's a Wes tutorial. You gotta check it out. Like if you're thinking about learning JavaScript or that's your next language, check this course out. It'll definitely get you where you need to be, or get you that pay raise you're looking for. So for sure, check that out. My fun pick, I was just on with Tyler McGinnis, and he was kind of doing his UI.dev background and what's going on over there. And he gave a giveaway, and he used this tool. And I think this is awesome. I feel like I've seen it before, but it's been a while. So it's got this random name list, and it runs into one and then finally stops, which is awesome because like this is very doable in CSS and JavaScript for sure. So that's my fun pick. And since we're live today, in only like a few hours, the Apple event is occurring. The iPhone's coming out for sure, iPhone 13. But I am hoping, fingers big crossed, I am hoping that they release the MacBook Pro. So we'll
not
see.
happening.
I know.
Me too.
Don't break my heart.
I'm seriously just sitting here with my loonies ready to buy it, but one day.
For those non-Canadian, that is money.
What is that big piece of money behind you with a queen on it?
It's I got this in a barn this summer. We went like yard sailing. We found this barn full of old stuff, and it's a $1,000 bill that is also a clock.
Oh my God.
And I haven't hung it up yet. I've got all these boxes of stickers behind me, so that's why it looks awful. But
the queen was so young there.
Yeah, she's immortal.
I'll throw it over to Brittney. I have your picks up as well.
Yeah. I saw the JavaScript 30 get put up there, but yeah, this is a free course that Wes put out with, I think, a sponsorship, but that was amazing that he put this out for free, because that means that if you're just starting out, I would highly suggest you go and take this course, because it will show you how to build 30 different projects in JavaScript. And it taught me so much. The drum kit one, I actually changed into a piano. And I actually still have that on my portfolio on my site, because it's one of my favorite things I've ever built. I love it. And it's a really good course.
Your second pick.
Yeah, The Handmaid's Tale. So I'm a little late to the train on this one, I guess, so to speak. We started watching this maybe a couple weeks ago, and we're in season 3 already. So I think there's 4 seasons out right now, and I don't even know if it's still going on, but we have been binging that for sure. It's been really good.
I will say my wife was obsessed. I tried to watch it. It's too much for me. I had to back away.
You have to be in, I guess, the right headspace for it, because it can be a bit much.
Nice. Okay. So I think we've finally gotten to Wes's picks. What do you have today for us, Wes?
Am I supposed to pick two things?
You don't have to. I try to always do a technical and a fun one.
Oh,
but
yeah.
One pick's totally fine.
I'll pick my first one, which is not technical, but so I've had this wallet for a long time, and it's been my favorite wallet ever. And it's just a piece of elastic webbing, like something you'd get in a pair of like shorts or something like that. Yeah. And it's great. You just throw your cards in it, and it's nice and slim. It just you throw it in your pocket, and I've had it for maybe 5 or 6 years now, and it's just like totally stretched out. But my wife is in fashion, and I was like watching her sew some stuff, and she like had this, and I was like, that's what my wallet is made out of. So my sick pick or whatever perfect pick is 2-inch elastic webbing. So I'm just going to, I got some, and I'm just going to make my own version of it. And like literally the best wallet I've ever had. Like I know there's slim wallets and elastic bands and all this crazy stuff, but like this is the best one because I can quickly like see all my cards, and I draw Sharpie colors on top of the important cards, so I know what they are. And like it was like $20, and I was like, this piece of elastic was like $3. So I'm going to make my own, and I encourage anybody who has basic sewing skills to make their own wallet with 2-inch elastic webbing.
Again, MacGyver.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, come on. So for those who missed it in the beginning, we played from Syntax.
Wes Barracuda Boss.
And we all think that Wes needs to be Wes MacGyver Boss. All you need is paper clip and some duct tape.
Yeah.
Okay, time for our Q&A session. So, folks, there is a banner still going at the bottom. You can join us live for Q&A. We do have some questions that we're gonna pop up right now for Wes to answer. So the first question I have, is there an online course you took for yourself lately that you can recommend or found really interesting?
No, that's the kind of thing about me is I don't read books and I don't take courses. I'm just trying to think of.
I'm so happy you said you don't read books. My wife harasses me. I said I read all day. I just don't read books.
It's funny because like my wife laughs at that too, but like I'm literally reading documentation and scanning stuff all day long and getting into it. But just the way that like that's another thing that I tell people is like some people love sitting down and taking an entire course of mine start to finish, and other people are like me where they're just scatterbrained and they're just docs here, there, example code, GitHub repos, and just putting it all together. And I am of the latter, which is funny that I make courses, but it's working out for me. But I just don't.
You're very much a self-learner. It sounds like.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I missed this question I got put up. Hi, Wes Boss. I've started learning web dev back in 2020, but eventually lost consistency. Now I have started again. I have learned JS again, but want to learn React again. Suggest me a good learning curve. So maybe we're looking for course advice or just how to get going again?
Yeah, I get this question like probably every day. People they say, Wes, I need a job. Tell me exactly what to do to get a job. Or like, which course do I take one after another? And will that get me a job? You know, like, and it's kind of frustrating because like, yes, they will help your skills, but really the career readiness and being good at it, it comes from learning these things and then applying them over and over and over and over and over again. So like, what do I recommend to you is that you can take my beginner React course, no problem, reactforbeginners.com. But then say, okay, I built this. Could I build the wheel thing that they just showed? Can I build something similar to what Wes built, but add my own little flair, maybe add an image upload to it or something like that. So that's my recommendation to you is like learn enough and then start to build. And that's also why I did my JavaScript 30 course is that you really just need the repetition over and over and over again. And that's what's really going to make it stick in your head.
I think you touched on it a little bit earlier too with the JavaScript fundamentals in your beginner JavaScript course, having those before jumping to something like React. I made the mistake of jumping straight into React and got totally confused at what is React, what is JavaScript. So I think making sure you understand those JavaScript fundamentals first and then moving and slowly building and doing React.
Absolutely. And people don't want to hear that. They want to just jump straight ahead. And at a certain point, you can jump when you're in over your head. That's totally fine. You'll learn to swim that way, but you do need a good set of fundamentals first.
Chris Ellis threw out there a while back. You won't remember things learned in a vacuum. I think it still applies to what we're talking about right now. But he also wants to know, when is your TS course coming out?
Yeah, soon. That's what I tell everybody. That's kind of the nice thing. The thing about me is that I make a course and then I launch it and then it's out there. I don't have like a monthly schedule where I have to crank out a new course every single week or every single month. So I can take the time that I need to make sure that it's fully developed. I'm hoping by the end of the year, but I don't like saying dates because it just makes people mad if I don't hit them or whatever.
Cool. Well, I think that wraps up the Q&As that I have. I think people were a little shy today. Maybe it's too early in the US. I don't know.
Getting ready for the Apple event.
That's right. The Apple event's coming. I've been doing a really terrible job at this, so I want to just throw this up. So for our Coding Cat Dev, the way to get to all of these podcasts, and after I clean this one up, it will be out here, of course. You can just click on that podcast button, and I was going to look for Wes Bos's friend, Scott. I guess it's been longer than I thought.
Right there.
Creating a learning platform. So Scott was also on here, and if you haven't checked it out, it's hard to believe at this point, but Syntax FM is where you can find both Wes and Scott. Wes, soon to be MacGyver boss. So thanks so much, Wes, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Wes.
See you later.